CountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got a coach that's done one of the better jobs in the big country as far as I'm concerned. I would put him right up there, Chris Hagler of the Anson Tigers.
Yeah, for sure. He's done a tremendous job with Anson. I was able to see them play last week in a big game against Stamford at home. They were able to come from behind to beat them, and really an impressive showing. They had a huge second half. Were able to get a little bit of separation after going to halftime down. But yeah, he's got another good quality bunch, and that's kind of become a trend out there. He's done, like we said, a very good job with that Anson program. Has made them one of the more consistent programs in the big country. I think that's a testament to the job that he's done there, because that program has had some struggles over the years. So it's been fun to watch him build what he's built there, and it's been fun to watch him do what he's done with this team as well, because I think that he had some challenges going into this year with a new quarterback, and then he's had some challenges in the season at that same position. So it'll be interesting to talk to him about some of those things, and really just his impressions of this bunch and kind of what his thoughts are so far.
And before we jump into tonight's show, we want to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stamford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, it's time to take a peek around the area from last week, some of the top ball games. One of the area's quiet teams that's kind of snuck in under the radar that's off to a great start. And the Coleman Blue Cats have very quietly gotten off to a 5-1 start. It's one of their best starts in the last 5 years. Now, some people might want to throw cold water on it and say they're beating sub-500 teams, but I'll tell you what, they're doing to sub-500 teams what a good football team would do. They're dominating.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that they're coming off that 35-0 win over De Leon, and I think it's important to point out that De Leon had been playing better going into that game. They'd been very competitive in the previous two games. Yes. I was surprised by that score, frankly, but I think that John Elder is quietly one of the dark horse candidates for Coach of the Year, in my opinion, for the job he's done with this Coleman group. This is a team that a lot of these same kids have lost a lot of football games, really struggled when they were younger, but they've matured. They've stayed the course, and they're playing good football right now. They're doing a lot of really positive things on both sides of the football, and honestly, that's one of my favorite stories. I've always liked Coach Elder. I love that he stuck it out there and really persevered with those guys. And I'm so happy to see him having the success they are.
Some of the people were, a little mad because they weren't winning, but he was playing with very low numbers, very young kids, and he was very loyal to that program and stuck it out. And he has got to be commended, because a lot of guys would have bailed. With his success, the success he had, he could have bailed, and he stayed there. That's some character, I'll tell you.
And that was important to him. I talked to him for that feature I wrote early in the season after their first win. And he said, look, I've been telling these kids, hey, it's going to – you got to fight through hard times. He's like, what kind of example would I be setting if I left when things got hard? So to see him get them through that rebuild, have them the trajectory pointed back up. And honestly, I'm excited. They've got some interesting games coming up. I don't think anyone probably thought that Cisco-Coleman matchup was going to be a real big one going into the season, but I'm looking forward to that game a lot now.
They're playing well enough to where San Saba and Cisco have got to be concerned with them. They're not going to be able to show up and beat these guys, because Coleman's playing pretty well. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that I think that Coleman's fans, enough of them should be commended as well, because they did show enough patience to let them work through this. And here they are at 5-1. So it's a great story.
And they're very proud of those kids. Those kids deserve a lot of credit. That's a group that has really stuck through some hard times, continued to fight, and they're being rewarded for it now, which is cool.
All right, remaining in Class 2A. Division 2, this matchup we were looking at last week, nearly the game of the week, Santo and Cross Plains. Cross Plains coming away with a 27-14 win. For the second straight week, Santo hurt itself with a bunch of turnovers. This is a young but good, talented Santo team that right now is having trouble with some giveaways. And if you're going to win at Cross Plains, you cannot do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened is they kind of spotted Cross Plains a pretty good lead early, and then you do that against that Cross Plains defense, and you're really going to struggle to come back. And that is what happened. But yeah, you're right. Two of the last 3 weeks, they've had 8 turnovers in those 2 games. And you're not going to win games doing that, especially against a good team like Cross Plains. But I do give Santo a lot of credit. That was a team. They were down 3 scores very quickly, and they fought their way back into the game and were able to pull back within a couple of scores and at least give themselves a chance to come back. But that Cross Plains defense is so good. You're not going to be able to spot them
Yes.
a 2-point lead and beat them.
That's where I was going next. Through 7 games, now Cross Plains is 6-1, off to a 6-1 start. One of their better starts in the last few years. They've always been good under Coach Purvis, but they're off to a nice 6-1 start. And here's the thing: through 7 ball games, they have yet to allow more than 3 scores. They have held 6 of their first 7 opponents to 2 scores or less. They are playing outstanding defense.
Yeah, that's a very good defensive football team. And their only loss, which was a surprising one against Haskell, was a game where they struggled with turnovers. So, but I've been impressed with the way they've played since that loss. They've rattled off 3 or 4 straight wins where they've looked impressive. And this Santo game was definitely one of those, because I think you're right. This is a young Santo team, but there's a lot of talent there.
Yes.
And they're starting to show some explosiveness offensively. So to bottle them up the way they did, and to do enough offensively to win, I think that's a good win for Cross Plains, and it gives them a chance now to play Albany for a district title.
It's important to mention that Cross Plains team, their only loss was a 20-16 loss to Haskell, an upset loss at Haskell, and they got beat by a fourth quarter pick 6 in that game. They were up in the fourth quarter and got beat by a late pick 6. Otherwise, they'd be 7-0. So.
Yeah, and they were ranked at that time. They'd cracked the rankings for the first time in a very long time, if not ever, and unfortunately lost their first game after getting that ranking. But I think it kind of refocused them, and you've seen them play really well since.
I still think the Santo Ball Club it's a solid team. It is a playoff team. They just got to clean up them mistakes, and that's what young teams do. They have the growing pains, and right now they're still competitive despite that. At least they were last week. So if they clean that up, I think we're looking at a playoff team that might get a round or 2 deep. That's possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to take that number 3 seed out of that district and be a dangerous team for any number 2 seed. But you got to be impressed with them. I think that their ceiling is another year away. I think next year they're going to be real dangerous. But right now they're already competing at a high level. A bunch of young kids that are getting a lot of valuable experience and doing well while doing it. So I think Devin Mann has a lot to look forward to going forward.
All right, we're going to stay in Class 2A. We're going to go to Division 1. We're only going to lightly touch on this ball game at the moment, because we'll be talking to Anson head football coach Chris Hagler here in a moment. But you were there for Anson and Stamford in a great ball game, won by Anson, 41-34 on the grass field there at home. Really, that's a ball game for a high playoff seed.
Yeah, I thought it was exactly that. It was a little sloppy early. This was Anson's first game in 3 weeks, and you could kind of tell that offensively they weren't really clicking. And Stamford was able to get out to a lead, but Anson really dominated the third quarter, was able to build a 3-score lead, and then hold off a late Stamford rally. But it was a fun game, and I thought it would be. We talked about this last week, is one that I was looking forward to. 2 teams that have some similarities and just in tempo and those sorts of things, and it was not necessarily an easy game to stat, and sometimes you're having trouble finding the line of scrimmage before the play starts, but a very fun game and a good win for Anson. It was a real quality win and a really gritty win for him.
And they're using their 3rd starting quarterback of the season. Blake Benson, our player of the week, started this season as their 3rd string quarterback, shifted over to quarterback, and did a great job in his first ever varsity start. And I'll tell you what this is indicative of, Dan. When you can move that far down the roster, the depth chart, and go to a 3rd guy and still move the football the way they have been, this year, and adapt, that's really indicative of great coaching and the program being in place.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's a tribute to the depth that they have at that position, and I think it's also a testament to the scheme that Coach Hagler runs out there. That they have a very quarterback-friendly scheme where kids can step in there. They're not making difficult throws. They're making the right reads, and then it helps too that they've got some really good skill guys on the edges, and Dylan Pyle, Jacob Jenkins, guys that can really run, and that's part of it. You throw a quick screen and it can go for 6. And that happened a few times. But I got to give Vincent some credit, too. He made some really nice throws as well. He made a couple of throws downfield that were really on the money and really only made one big mistake. So a good night for him, and I think a lot of reason for optimism going forward with this offense. And
that finally brings us to last week's Big Country Preps Game of the Week. A classic, Dan, that I attended at the Mustang Bowl in Sweetwater, won by the Mustangs 36-30 in OT over Midland Greenwood, a team that many people favored to beat Sweetwater. A big night for Harrison Foster, scoring 3 different touchdowns, 3 different ways, I should say. Recovered a fumble in the end zone. He took an interception back 51 yards, caught a pass for a 62-yard touchdown. and had 14 tackles. A big night for the Foster kid, but a big night for the Mustangs, period, especially defensively. They had their opportunities defensively to really step up against a big physical football team and stopped Midland Greenwood twice on two would-be scoring drives on fourth down. And that really, to me, is indicative of the program taking that physical step forward. Those are the kinds of stops that championship teams make. Because sooner or later, you're going to run into these big physical teams that knock you over. And if you can't stop them, you're never going to get that big gold football, for a regional title or whatever. It's not going to happen. Sweetwater pulled it off, and they look good.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, they scored 36 points because that's kind of what Sweetwater's offense does. They put points on the board. But I think that the most impressive thing about that win was, like you said, the defense stood tall when it needed to and got a really gritty, tough, gutty win. And a big one. This gives them a chance and probably makes them the favorite. Well, I think definitely makes them the favorite now for that district title and gives them a chance to clinch it this week, in fact. So a huge win for them, a big night at the Mustang Bowl. And this team is just continuing to build confidence and continuing to build momentum, and they're going into the playoffs with a lot of it. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see. But you mentioned Harrison Foster, and that kid is just one big play after another. I mean, I think a lot of people know him best probably for his work at the receiver position, where he is a big play receiver for them. But he showed last week that he's a really big part of their defense as well. So kudos to him and kudos to the Sweetwater Mustangs. That's a big win for him.
All right, this is about time now to talk about this week's top football games. But before we do that, we want to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts free of charge throughout the school year. And also, for the love of the game broadcasting, on our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX FM out of Eastland, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, 98.5 KWBY out of Ranger, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, and 94.7 FM KWKQ also out of Graham. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. And also Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give Phil a call at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And finally, Jack's Road Boring out of Snyder. Dirt sales and services with experience and service that you can count on. Larry Green is the man to call out there. Give him a shout at 325-575-8024. That's Jack's Road Boring in Snyder. And with that, Dan, it's time to talk about this week's top ball games. Let's start on the local front.
Yeah, and we got a couple interesting games. Like we said earlier, Wiley will not be playing. Their game against Amarillo Paladuro has been canceled due to COVID. But a couple of district openers for Cooper and Abilene High. Cooper's opening at home against Justin Northwest in a really good matchup to start off district play, District 3 5A Division 1. And then Abilene High, I think, has a very interesting game going on the road to San Angelo Central. Both programs looking for their first win, and I think both programs kind of view themselves as having an opportunity to make the playoffs, and this is going to be a big game toward that goal. So whoever wins this one, I think, will probably have the inside track on that fourth playoff spot at least, but the loser is going to have a tough time. So a big game in San Angelo this week, and then, like I said, Cooper is going to be here at Shotwell, going to try to get off to a fast start against Justin Northwest, which is off to a 2-1 start. So a couple of interesting games there. Both are getting started with district this week, so I think you're going to start seeing some of that sense of urgency now. So it'll be fun to watch.
On the subject of big games, we've got a big ball game coming up in District 3, Class 2A Division 1, which we will talk about in more detail when Coach Chris Hagler visits us from Anson here in a moment. The Anson Tigers are going to be heading out to Forsan, and this is going to be a crucial ball game. This is, as far as I'm concerned, if you want a 1 or 2 seed out of that district, the winner of this ball game is going to have a much better position to snag one of those. There's a lot of tough games in this league, and anything can still happen. But the winner of this ball game is going to be in a lot better shape than the loser of this ball game. So there's a lot of importance placed on this thing.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a kind of a neat game. I think Forsan's kind of the forgotten team, in my opinion, when talking about District 3 2A Division 1 contenders. I think everybody talks first about Holly, and now Anson with that win over Stamford gets a lot of talk. Stanford's still in that mix, but Forsan's kind of the team that doesn't get talked about probably enough, in my opinion. This is a team that is vastly improved this year, play very good defensively. They're physical on offense, got a big line that they like to run behind, got a couple of quarterbacks in Sawyer Stallings and Major Stockton who each do things a little bit differently. They're not real flashy offensively, but they find ways to move the ball. They find ways to get points on the board. And with that defense, they don't need to put a ton of points on the board. So, but I think you're right that the winner of this game will be in a pretty good position to get one of those top 2 playoff seeds, and really put themselves in a position maybe to play for a district title. One thing I think is important to point out is that this district is so deep and so competitive. There's so much parity that there's a good chance, I think, that the district champion in this one could have one loss at the end of the season. And I think that you could see some really crazy tiebreaker scenarios just because there are 4, I think, very quality teams in this district. So it's going to be fun to watch, but I think this is a big game for both teams, especially for Anson, because if they're able to win this one after beating Stamford last week, they got to feel pretty good about the position they're in.
Prior to the season, it would not have surprised either you or me to see Hamline or Holly, rather, run the table in this league. And I think both you and I kind of expected that. But at this point, if Holly finishes the season with a loss, maybe even 2 in this league, nothing would surprise me. And with regards to this Forsan ball club, they've won 3 straight. And of their 2 losses, they lost to a very good Comanche team, and missed a late field goal. Otherwise, they would have beat those guys. They missed a late field goal and missed that opportunity. The other game was a loss to Post, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the state, which is completely excusable. So we can completely discount that. Forsan is a team with momentum, and they're dangerous.
Yeah, one thing I like about them is they've got experience in close games, both in a losing scenario against Coahoma and in a winning scenario against McCamey, where they've had to kind of grind out wins. They've been in those positions, and I think that's something that bodes well for them.
All right, and moving on to Class 3A, this is District 5, really a fun district, and this is going to be an interesting matchup in that league. Comanche playing host to the Eastland Mavericks, Dan, and Eastland comes in. Comanche's undefeated, they're 6-0, but Eastland has found its sea legs, and over the last 3 weeks, they've scored over 200 points. This is a very explosive football team coming in and facing one of the best defenses that we've got in the big country. Through 6 games, Comanche has not allowed more than 7 points to anybody. Something's got to give.
Yeah, no, this to me may be the most intriguing matchup of any game in the big country this year, because you've got an offense that is just so explosive, putting up points in bunches against a defense that doesn't let anybody score. So I think it's going to be one of the area's best offenses against one of the area's best defenses. And whichever of those 2 groups is able to have a better day, I think is going to win the game. The one thing I'd probably give Comanche's offense a leg up in that matchup on the weakness versus weakness matchup. I think Comanche's offense is a little stronger than what Eastland's defense has shown, but this Eastland offense has the ability to kind of mask some defensive deficiencies. So it's going to be a fun matchup. And this one I'm really excited about. I've kind of had this one circled for a little while. Since seeing Comanche, I got to see them beat Brady early in the season, and watching what they've done since on the defensive side of the ball, this is one that I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup, and I really think that as much hubbub as you're going to hear about the Comanche defense against the Eastland offense, it's really the other side that's going to be, I think, the most important aspect of this game. Eastland is going to have to find a way to get the football away from Comanche in order to let that high-powered offense do its thing. Because if Comanche plays keep away all night, if you've got Baron Morton standing on the sidelines all night drinking water, they're really not. What good does it do you? They're going to have to get some defensive stops and get the football away from Comanche. To me, that's going to be the key to the game.
Yeah, I think even more than stops, you're going to have to get some quick stops, because Comanche, I mean, if they have a drive that goes 40 yards and lasts, 4 or 5 minutes, they're fine with that. I think Comanche plays a style that could definitely frustrate this Eastland offense if they're able to move the ball offensively, and against this Eastland defense, I think they will be able to. But I think it's going to be a really fun matchup. You got 2 completely different styles, 2 really good coaches who've had a lot of success at their respective stops, and 2 teams that I think both feel like they have a chance to do some really special things this year. So the way I look at it, I mean, obviously Jacksboro's sitting there in the background in what's a really good district, and Eastland's coming off a big win against a vastly improved Millsap team. But I kind of view this one as the district championship game, although I'm sure Jacksboro will have something to say about it. But I think these are the 2 best in that league, in my opinion.
I think it's a little early to say that's the league championship game with Jacksboro in the mix, but that's just my opinion. I'm interested to see how Eastland's defense performs. They may have scored 200 points in the last 3 weeks, but they've also allowed about 140. So they're going to have to do better than that. If Comanche has got the ball all night, it could be very frustrating for Eastland, who wants to get out and get the ball spread around and get that up-tempo offense going. To be sitting on the sidelines all night can be brutal facing a wing T team that's good at what they do.
On the flip side, if Eastland is able to capitalize on its first couple of possessions and build a lead, that's going to be a huge advantage for them, because it's not a Comanche offense that's built for coming back. So
absolutely, a big lead for either team is going to be a big advantage. Either way.
Sure. I mean, a two-score lead becomes a really big deal in this game. But like I said, it's just going to be a really fun game between two completely contrasting styles and two really quality teams. So I'm excited to see how this one turns out.
And with that, it's time to talk about our Big Country Preps game of the week. We've got the Wall Hawks coming to Tuscola. This is a ball game that we have had circled on the calendar for quite some time. In the way Jim Ned is playing right now, I give the Indians a very good shot. Now, Wall has got 2 losses, but they're both to very, very good private schools, so you can almost discount them. This can be a good matchup. Jim Ned is playing good physical football. They've already won a game against a top 5 team from Hallettsville. They believe. This is a team that believes, and that's the first step when you face the Wall Hawks.
Yeah, and this is another one of those matchups in districts where I think early in the season, if you'd asked, we'd have said that I think Wall's kind of the prohibitive favorite for that district title. Now I don't necessarily see it that way, and it's not because of anything Wall's done. This Wall team is very, very good. I just think Jim Ned has put themselves in that discussion with the way they've played. This is a Jim Ned team that blew out Eastland. This is a Jim Ned team that went and beat Hallettsville in a game that they scheduled late in the game as a replacement game for a cancellation. Jim Ned's just playing really, really well on both sides of the football. That's a team with a lot of confidence, a lot of momentum against a Wall team that's kind of owned that district since those two teams have been paired. So I think this is going to be a fun one between two teams that really have built some familiarity with each other, having played in the same district for a little while now, and two teams that I think have kind of been pointed out as the favorites for a long time. So this should be a fun one. I'm excited to see what Jim Ned can do if they can continue to build on what they put together this season, because that has been a very impressive start to the season for the Indians. Absolutely.
They've won 4 straight since losing their season opener to Ballinger, which really speaks high of Ballinger. That speaks very highly of that Ballinger ball club. But anyway, yeah, they come in with a lot of momentum, 4 straight wins, including wins over good teams from Eastland, Cisco, Hallettsville. This team has performed very well. And we've got a Hawks team. Wall played TLC, a struggling TLCA team, but their 2 losses to San Antonio Cornerstone and to Midland Christian, those are 2 very good private schools. So it's almost like you can completely discount them.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't count almost.
And the one common data point you have between these two teams, both played Cisco, and the games were very similar. Both teams Cisco was competitive with both for about a half, and then both were able to pull away in the second half once kind of depth became a deal. So I'm not sure we learned anything from that matchup that really tells you which team either team has a major edge. But I think the way Jim Ned has played, I think there's very good reason to believe that they'll compete in this game. I think there's no reason to think they can't win this game. That doesn't necessarily mean they will, but they're capable of going and winning this game for sure.
And with that, it's just about time to bring on Anson head football coach Chris Hagler, who is waiting in our green room, our luxury green room.
Digital green room. Yeah, let's go ahead and get him on. It's gonna be fun to talk to him, Coach.
And joining us now via Zoom, Anson head football coach Chris Hagler. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
And Coach, we'll just start with the most recent win. I had the opportunity to see you guys in that Stamford game. A really strong second half for your bunch. A really gritty performance, I thought. Just what did you see in that game, and just how proud of you were your bunch, given that was y'all's first game in 3 weeks?
First of all, I was very proud of our kids. I told them all week that one of the things that we needed to fight against is, the rust that we were going to face after, there were 2 ball games that we did not have. Actually, one was an open week, and then the forfeit for Albany that, I guess you call it a forfeit. But anyway, we didn't get to play 2 games straight, and then actual 3 weeks of practices. So you kind of got to expect from those young kids, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, there's going to be a little rust. But that's what happened the first half, exactly how it was. We went inside and we talked about, hey, let's just regroup. There wasn't any griping or moaning going on. And hey, let's make some adjustments. And then that's what we did in the second half. We caught on fire for a few points there in that third quarter.
All right, Coach, you got an important game coming up. You got the Forsan Buffaloes. First off, what are your impressions of this ball club, seeing them on video?
After seeing them on video, for what it's worth, what video's worth is it's just again a tough, gritty bunch that is very fundamental sound. Coach Phillips, Jason Phillips, and his bunch do a good job out there of just getting those kids lined up in a defense and getting them to play alignment, assignment, and technique. And then on offense, they're just they find ways to move the ball through number 7 and number 24. I don't have my roster on me, but they like to fire at you downhill and maybe a little play action here or there. They really want to establish the run. So, going to Forsan, that's enough in itself. We're going to go over there and, you might as well put 3 points or 7 points in their corner for playing at Forsan. It's pretty tough.
All right. Coach, let's talk about the importance of this ball game. You're in a tough district. You got a lot of good teams fighting for those top 2 spots. This is going to be one of those games that, it'd be nice to have it in your back pocket. If you want a 1 or 2 seed, this is going to be one of those ball games you're going to want to win.
Oh, definitely. It's, the winner puts himself in the driver's seat, doesn't necessarily knock you out of the district championship or a chance at it, but it definitely puts you in the driver's seat. And so they're 1-0 and we are too. And, the winner is alone by themselves. And so Stanford's not out of it. They'll be at Holly. And then the very next week, here we go. We've got Holly and Stanford's got Forsan at Forsan. So it seems like all of us are playing pretty tough ball games right off the bat. And so, like I said, again, a win would do wonders for us, especially, having Holly the next week at home. At home is pays dividend for us. And not to discount Haskell or Colorado City. They've had some troubles of their own, but definitely these first 3 ball games, they are pivotal ball games.
And Coach, obviously everyone's having to adapt some this year with COVID and everything else going on. Y'all had to do a little extra adapting, particularly on offense with some injuries at that quarterback position and maybe some moves around at that position. It's giving you an opportunity to kind of do some different things, see some different looks from your offense that maybe we've been accustomed to. I guess just kind of where do you stand now, and how much has that change kind of impacted what y'all doing, and has it kind of added maybe some to the game plan that y'all are throwing at teams now?
Well, before I talk about the quarterback, we really like to spread the ball around and get it to different people's hands, and I feel like we've got one of the best receiving cores around, and Julian Garcia and Jacob Jenkins and Dylan Powell and Mason Hagler. He offers us some variety at tight end / that Y inside slot spot that we can get in different formations with him on the field. But we really wanted to keep that intact, and we had that in place when we had Isaac Brand that took the starting role there against Winters the first game, and we were allowed to have those guys where we wanted them at the X and the Z position, which is our outside receiver spot. And then, injuries happen, and it happened to us, and it happened to us early. First half, and Isaac went out, unfortunately, had a season-ending ACL injury, and so hopefully he'll be back for his baseball. And then, fortunately, we'd been drilling 5 different quarterbacks all summer long since the UIL reinstated summer workouts, and so every one of them showed up to every workout, regardless if they were going to play or not, and it's paying off now. And so those guys got in there. We look for our number 2, our best athlete, which is, we look at, I'm not saying he's the best one, but one of them, Dylan Powell, at X. And we put him back in at quarterback. And so now him being a quarterback kind of takes away from what you do out there on the edge as far as the deep threat and the screens and whatnot. So he came in. We won 2 ball games. On the road again. We hadn't been at home, and so we felt very fortunate to be in that position. And then we went into Hamline, kind of crippled up a little bit. We had some lineman issues. We had, Dylan Powell, who was banged up from the Dublin game. And so now Blake Vinson, who got some playing time in the second half against Hamline, he was our next go-to. And so it's either him or Mason Hagler. And Mason's been playing a lot of quarterback for us in one of those Wildcat power sets. And so anyway, going into the next week against Stanford, coming off that bye week, we thought, hey, we've got to make a change here if we want to be multiple like we are. And so Blake has shown some promise. We put him in there at quarterback. We also moved up a freshman, which is unheard of, but he is very much talented. He's got a bright future on his hands. He just don't have the experience. And Blake, needless to say, he didn't have any experience either. He's never started. And so we went with Blake, the upperclassman, a junior over a freshman. He got in there, and, man, I'm tickled. That kid did a great job. He's a great kid. He loves sports. He loves football. He loves to compete. He may not be as fast or as big as some other guys, but I tell you what, his intelligence makes up for a lot. So that's where we sit. That's how we got to Blake Vince, and it allows us to be more multiple and do the things that we want to do. And so that's where we're at going into this week against Forsan.
And I mean, there's a lot of teams that, particularly at your level, that once you get to your third quarterback would be struggling. And obviously, you look at what Blake did in his first start, really stepped in there and did some really nice things. I guess just what did it say about not only the depth of your offensive on the offensive side of the ball, but also kind of the work that those kids, in that third, fourth, fifth quarterback spot have been putting in to be in a position where they can step in there and do that?
Well, it starts with the daily routine and what we do and the habits that we set. Every day throwing and catching is a part of. It's what we do. And so those receivers, they're knowing the whole scheme of the play and what we're trying to do. And so they're very, very attentive in what we're doing. And so it's nothing really for, besides, the technical part of being a quarterback, the reads and whatnot, those kids, those receivers can step in. And some of them can do better jobs, obviously, than the others, but they can step in the quarterback position and just have some familiarity with it just based on being a receiver. And so that helps what we do day in, day out on a daily basis.
Coach, we know you miss your son and being able to coach your son, but how much fun have you had with the new faces and bringing them along at the quarterback spot?
Oh, it's been, refreshing. I'll tell you what, guys, I had a hard time at the beginning of the year. I was kind of in that mental hangover state. It was hard. You just like losing a right arm. And so, I've had the luxuries of having some good quarterbacks over the last 5 years, and Drew for 3, and then, we had Cade Baker for 2. And so we've been, some successful in that spot, and that helps. Boy, that helps in this offense. And, it's just one of those deals that, I was embracing the challenge with these new guys coming aboard in that spot. And, I had all the faith in the world. And the thing is, they were hungry to fill those shoes. Isaac Brand was hungry to fill those shoes at corner. It just didn't pan out for him. But, Dylan Pyle, he was wanting to do that. That's why I had 5 up there repping during the summer at quarterback, because they saw what was before them. They thought they could do it, and they were drilling that way, and it's paid off.
Coach, you touched on this. I think it showed in that Stamford game. Y'all got some serious speed on the edges when you talk about Jenkins and Pyle and some of those others. How big an asset is that for whoever it is that steps into that quarterback position? But just in general, how much freedom does that give you as an offense? As your offense and as a coach to do some of the things that you like to do offensively?
Well, it makes play calling a lot easier. So I'll tell you, though, for a quarterback to step in, he knows that, hey, I don't have to put the load on me. You've got kids out wide that are vertical threat over the top, and then in space they're hard to tackle. And so it takes some pressure off a kid like a Blake Benson who steps in. He just knows that, hey, I've just got to make a high percentage throw and be a good manager of the football game. And that is a big key is in our offense, and I preach it all the time, be good with your lower body and be a good manager of the football game. And that's all you got to do. And so, you got to have a little bit of intelligence. You got to know, what definitely not to do. You got to take care of the football. But a lot of the stuff we do is check the box, yes or no, as a quarterback. Is it there? Yes. Is it isn't? No. and then you just go on from there. And so we have some built-in RPOs that are very simple to do. A lot of them are pre-snap RPOs, and then we have some, that are built in, but they're not very hard things to do as far as the quarterback standpoint. And as we go along and he gets more experience, then we can throw more on him, and then we usually do. Man, it's good to be kind of deep in that position at this point.
Coach, we wanted to ask you about your impressions of this Hamline ball club. You're one of the guys who have coached against them. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about them, and can you see them getting back to Arlington the way they're playing?
I tell you what a stellar ball club, and I knew it, and I didn't know, the comment, are they better than last year? That question, but seeing it on field level, just with that experience they had and the way they carry themselves, I honestly believe that they're better. I think they're lacking kind of in the middle in their offensive line, that they need to get some game time experience, but they're plenty big. I mean, they are big and they can move. So, yeah, to answer your question, I think they can get back there. I think they're, who's to say the judgment's still out if they're better than last year. I do know that he's lacking in depth. That hurt him, losing that kid, that linebacker, the very first part of the season, that hurt him. But Coach Lucas and them do a great job. They run the same type style offense we do. Matter of fact, both staffs took trips up to Canadian to visit with Coach Ketting and them back-to-back weeks. We had to reschedule because they were on top of our week. But we run the same style of offense, and they've got the personnel, they've got the size, they got the speed. It's just that lack of depth. I mean, can he hang on? Because he was playing us, and he had a starters in nearly the whole time. But the alternative is to go to somebody that's not. I mean, I think he had 18 kids on the sideline, and so all you need is 11. But you dang sure to get to Jerry World, you need some depth, and it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. But I'd like to have a crack at them again, maybe with a full healthy boat. But I don't know that we could beat them 4 out of 10 times. But they're very quality ball club, and they're well coached.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on you in this fun district that you are in. We appreciate your time, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And that was Anson head football coach Chris Hagler. And I've been very impressed with Coach Hagler from day one. If you've ever gone to one of his practices, they're always very energetic, very lively. I've always thought that he's done a fabulous job over there with the Tigers, about as well as anybody's done.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think this team has been a fun one to watch because, you lose a kid in Drew Hagler, who was so good for him, did so many special things there for 3 years as a starter. You kind of wonder how that quarterback position is going to work out. They come out with Isaac Brand. He gets hurt, and they've really had to adapt to that position, and have still managed to be very explosive offensively, as Stamford learned last week. So I like this Anson team. I think that they're playing about as well as anybody in that district right now. And if they can beat Forsan this week, which is not going to be an easy task by any stretch, I think that Anson Hawley game looks really interesting down the road. So it was fun to talk to Coach Hagler about the team he's got, and we spent a lot of time on that quarterback position just because that's been such a point of emphasis in this early going in the season. But I think he's done a tremendous job this year. He's done a tremendous job his entire time there. And it's been fun to watch for sure. That is an exciting offense to watch. They do some really interesting things, and his fingerprints are all over it. So it was good to talk to him about it.
One characteristic of a Chris Hagler football team is that they're going to attack you. They're going to come to your place. They're going to believe that they can win. It's going to be a quick tempo. They're going to attack you, and you're going to have to deal with it. If you're going to beat them, you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to, they're going to hit you in the face, and if you can't deal with it, you're not going to beat them. So they're a fun program to watch, and really, you have to include Hagler amongst the guys that have done some of the better jobs coaching in the area, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
I agree, and I think that attacking style is really kind of indicative of the personality that Coach Hagler has. He's a very energetic, excitable guy. You watch him on the sidelines; he really gets into it with his kids. he really has a good time and gets really excited when they do big things. So I think that just kind of goes into the type of program he's built. That is a high energy, fast paced program. And like you said, it's worked. It's certainly worked so far, and I'm excited to see where it takes this particular Anson bunch.
And that's just about going to wrap it up for the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 different subscription packages here at BigCountryPreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription that we knocked the price down to $4 a month. And we've got an annual, a 12-month subscription for $36, $3 a month for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, it is available for just $7. You can click that small shopping cart icon to the bottom right, follow the prompt, and purchase as many of those as you would like. But you probably noticed as we're getting deeper into the season that we do take a whole lot of photos here, and that's something we're real proud of. So check those out. Check out our photo archive and buy as many as you'd like here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.